are, Vegas Scents here. Got a nice little comparison video I'm gonna do today, and this one is gonna be on what in my opinion seems to be one of the most overlooked and disrespected Creeds within the line of Creed. Now, I'm not doing the actual original Creed fragrance, but what I am doing is comparing two clones of that fragrance, and that's going to be Alexandria's Himalaya Mountains and Scentual Obsession's Creed Himalaya. Alright, so I smelled Creed Himalaya for the first time about a year ago. I went over a barber's house. That's where he was cutting, like actually in his apartment or whatever, and we were talking about fragrances, and we got on the topic of Creed, specifically more so about Aventus, and he actually mentioned that he had a Creed. So he showed me the one that he had, and I said, okay, that's Himalaya, and I had been sort of curious about how Himalaya smelled for a while, and I never really saw too much on the internet about that fragrance. Normally with Creeds, it was always Aventus, Milsim Imperial, Silver Mountain Water, those types of fragrances. And when I sprayed that fragrance on, I was like, wow, like this is a really, really nice, fresh, clean smelling fragrance. So here we're gonna basically see, I guess, who is the king of the clones for these two. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and spray on each one of these here to get a nice little idea of how the opening smells on each one. And I mean, I'm pretty familiar with the dry down on each one as well. Okay. Alright, so after spraying these and smelling them off of the initial blast, what I'll say is the Scentual Obsessions has just a tad bit, I guess, it's actually smoother. It's a tad bit smoother and just a bit sweeter, if you could say that, because this isn't like a super sweet fragrance. It is more so like a green type fresh smelling fragrance, and really musky, I would say. But the Alexandria version, I feel it has a bit more tartness to it. And what I actually noticed with the Scentual Obsessions version is it's sort of the same thing that I noticed in their interpretation of Milsim Imperial, where Milsim Imperial, that scent, it's like a really salty, aquatic smelling scent, and it has what people call the watermelon note in it, which technically there's no watermelon note in Milsim Imperial, not according to Fragrantica anyway. I sort of get that a little bit with the Scentual Obsessions version as well. I get just a tad bit more sweetness, and it's not a bad thing at all. It honestly, I think it makes the scent a little bit more appealing, and maybe even a little bit more unisex. Even though Himalaya, I think for the most part, is considered to be like a male fragrance. But just that bit of added sweetness, I think it does sort of put it just right in the center to where it could be worn by either a man or a woman. The Alexandria version right now, I would say it's definitely on the greener side as it's starting to dry down a little bit more. but they're both really, really good. Now, the one thing that I noticed as far as performance goes with these two is the Himalaya Mountain. This fragrance is about average as far as longevity goes on me. I want to say I'll probably get about 7 hours or so of total longevity when wearing this fragrance. And with the Scentual Obsessions Himalaya, I get at least about 8 to 9 hours or so. So that's a plus with this one. And as far as projection goes, I would say these two are about the same. They probably project for a good hour and a half. At least an arm's length out or so, maybe a little bit more. And then, they definitely start to sort of dry down and become a little bit more of like a woody, green, fresh scent. Now, to my nose, the Himalaya from Scentual Obsessions, it does actually change a little bit throughout the cycle of the fragrance, which is something that the Scentual Obsessions fragrances don't really do that much. Again, if you've looked at any of my review videos for their fragrances, I mentioned that most of their fragrances sort of focus on a certain part of the fragrance, and it's pretty much just a linear ride from there. And with the Scentual Obsessions Himalaya, I definitely feel like, it starts off with, this really nice, sweet, fresh, but yet green, smell in the opening spray. And then as it starts to dry down, it does sort of become a bit more woody. And obviously the same thing with this one. I would say though, as this one starts to dry down, this one starts to become a bit more green and woody. Okay, so it all sort of depends on, I guess, what your preference would be. Unfortunately, I don't have the original Himalaya to really give a side-by-side comparison between these two. But from what I remember of what the Himalaya smelled like, these both really smell just like it. I would say maybe the Alexandria is just a tad bit closer as far as accuracy of smell. But again, the Scentual Obsessions version, I would say I actually prefer the smell of it over the Alexandria. Okay, so just on smell, I would say this one is the better scent. And then obviously you have price to factor into it as well. With the Himalaya, you get 60 milliliters for $25, whereas 60 milliliters of the Alexandria is going to be $62.99. So over double the price of the Scentual Obsessions. And again, the Scentual Obsessions actually last longer. All right, so I think you can kind of make your decision based off of that, which one you would want to purchase. If I were to rate these 1 to 10, I would have to give the Himalaya Mountains an 8.5 out of 10, and I would have to give the Alexandria a solid 8 out of 10. All right. So that's my take on these two. Definitely go and check out either one. You can check out the Alexandria Fragrances Himalaya Mountain on alexandriafragrances.com. And then the Scentual Obsessions, I'm gonna leave a link in the description to this video, because I don't remember the site by heart. I want to say it's like Scentual-obsessions.com or something like that. I know they have a new link to their website, so I'll leave that in the video description. But yeah, man, check them both out. They are both amazing fragrances. But again, the Scentual Obsessions, in my opinion, it wins this battle, in my opinion. All right. So that's Jamar here, Vegas Scents. I'll see you on the next video.